shit. All right, you can hear me now. All right, so we are live. DEFCON 2.0, DEFCON 201. This is GI Jack, and this is Archvile. Today, we have a few treats for you. One, first of all, we're going to show you a long-standing project I've been working on. Everyone's so excited about NinjaOS. A few reasons why I'm excited about NinjaOS. I just found recently today, found this program called Nicola. And I just managed to create a new website in this new website with this static site generator. So this is NinjaOS. Feeling pretty happy about myself. We have some pretty cool badass logos around here, and going to give you a demonstration today of development of NinjaOS on a USB stick that I have right here. So get this, the first thing we do is we have a laptop. I'm going to plug this right over here. Make sure we can see this over here on Jack's cluttered desk. Is we have just run-of-the-mill standard just regular, just crappy Dell laptop. Plug in NinjaOS, just a regular USB stick with NinjaOS, and boot. The one thing to note about this, right? The one thing you should really note about this is this will generally work on just about any computer which doesn't have the BIOS password set. So it's just about any of them. It's just go play. So right here, first thing you notice is the loading screen. One of the many hacks here is you will see this is let's see this. You can see this here. This is just basically a syslinux menu. The menu items here, we have a few different modes of NinjaOS, memtest86, and a hardware detection tool. What all these do here, right? Is if you can see it here, there is this priv mode true on the kernel command line. What this does is all this doesn't affect the kernel. All this is, when you select this, it doesn't affect anything. It just shows up on proc command line, and then once it shows up in proc command line during boot or later on in the session, we can use shell or Python scripts to process that, and then we can use that to execute code or whatever options. So priv mode true, that's NinjaOS privacy mode. If this is executed at runtime, what this will do is it will run a script that will scramble the Ethernet MAC addresses, the host name. So you have a somewhat anonymous.
A suggestion: while you're showing off NinjaOS on cam, you might want to make the cam full screen in the meantime.
Okay.
Or the display window.
Okay. So this is NinjaOS. A better thing, you don't have to look at my desktop. So this, so here it is. Because it's privacy mode, it dumps you to this rescramble button, which will generate all new addresses and a new host name. The way this currently works now is we used to have a fancy MAC address generator. This actually uses the one built into Network Manager, and it uses a pronounceable password generator to generate the host name. So you can see we have a host name here, Yao G0V, which kind of looks pronounceable. Which is, if you can see this right here, it kind of looks pronounceable. It's pretty cool. If it shows up in a DHCP server logs, it's not going to look kind of random. It's not going to look like it was procedurally generated. It's going to look like conceivably somebody would have actually just typed that in, which is kind of what you're going for here. It's kind of like the anti-heuristic effect. Maybe in another blog I'll get into more about kind of the next generation Mac and host scramble, where we do things like cat. We take a list of vendor names, an actual list of vid bytes from the MAC address, and we try to generate something that's relatively reasonable. So a few of the features here. From the GUI, as you'll notice, we have MAT, metadata anonymizations. It's a metadata scribbling tool. We have forensics imager. The ones we're famous for, we have text editors, VI, Nano, Joe. We have this rather cute, GPG front end called GPA. It's a nice little GUI that does all the key managers. And this one has all your basically sign, verify, encrypt, decrypt. And comes, of course, loaded with the NinjaOS keys. If you're running NinjaOS and you download a new version of NinjaOS, you already have the key right here for you to verify. So among other things here, we have Dark Snow, which is a friend for Dark Ice. Dark Ice, you can stream audio to a shellcast server. Electrum Bitcoin wallet. Ether8, which is a re-implementation of Etherman. Of course, Firefox, HexChat, this GUI version of Netstat. So one of the few tools we have here, which is not lightweight, it's a full tool, is Firefox. Firefox comes with a lot of stuff configured by default. It comes with the following add-ons: Foxy Proxy, Grease Monkey, NoScript, and User Agent Switcher. User Agent Switcher by default is set to the user agent for Tor browser, which is again, this is just Windows 7 with this is just Windows 7 with the latest ESR build. So that comes by default. Foxy Proxy has a few interesting defaults. Foxy Proxy is already set up.
Do you want me to hold the camera?
I think I'll be good.
Okay.
Foxy Proxy has a few interesting defaults. Tor and I2P. If you go to a Tor I2P website, it'll automatically route it through Tor I2P. This is in the background. Privoxy is always running. Tor is not. So Privoxy is set up to route appropriate onions in I2P domains through the respective thing. This one will route I2P and Tor through Privoxy. However, if you want everything to go through Tor, you can select that, and now all traffic is going through Tor. This one will throw everything through ZA Proxy or Burp Suite automatically if you're doing web auditing with that. Unfortunately, due to space constraints, we did not have enough space to ship Privoxy, to ship ZA Proxy or Burp by default, but they can be easily pulled with Pacman. Or at least ZA Proxy can be. Burp is proprietary software, and it's not an Arch, it's an AUR, so we do not ship that by default because it's proprietary. Even if it is a very useful tool. What other stuff here? There's been a lot of configurations in Firefox. I was going to go to Preferences. So privacy and security. What do we choose to block? Everything. Might break something. If it breaks something, you can just disable this. Logins and passwords, we never save passwords. We always use private browsing mode. Nothing gets suggested. And of course, permission goes with all these. We turn everything off because this this is relatively paranoid default. But when you're using NinjaOS, maybe you should be paranoid. It's a live OS. If you need something, our thinking is to just come in here and like unblock it if you need it. Here we actually just removed exceptions for Mozilla. So again, a lot of the hardening is like this one looks like it's this one looks like a good thing blocking dangerous and deceptive content, but that actually makes an outside call to Google. Something that we really don't want to do. We don't want every website you go to Google being sent to, every website you visit being sent to Google just so they can check it. Maybe if your kind of threat model is kind of you're more new to this and, you're not quite sure, maybe you leave that turned on. But like when we do something like NinjaOS, we don't want any phone home. I mean, that just kind of somewhat defeats the purpose. Search engines. We just search in the address bar. Less space, less clutter. The search engines, DuckDuckGo is by default. I don't know whether they keep on cropping up the enabled search engines or just Twitter, Wikipedia, and DuckDuckGo. Twitter was, as much as people hate it, was one time a website started by activists. Wikipedia is a .org, and DuckDuckGo is DuckDuckGo. Everything else kind of is disabled. We don't need anybody. Again, if you really want, you can kind of re-enable these. So there's Firefox. There's a lot of interesting things you can do in Firefox. It's it's designed, at least the default is, especially with like no script. We have this configured with no script, that there's no, with the exceptions of localhost, if anything's running localhost, like I2P daemon, there's nothing's trusted by defaults. We ripped out all the defaults. Again, it's a little paranoid. Again, we ripped out all the defaults. Again, it's a little paranoid, but NinjaOS is, if you're using a live OS, you might be a little paranoid. So Net Activity Viewer is just a GUI version of what's it called, Netstat. You can copy paste easier from. We also have, we ship PuTTY, transmissions, BitTorrent client, email client. The cool thing about Sulfeed is, like, and if you can see, this is an email client called Sulfeed. The cool thing about that one is you can do proxy settings per proxy settings per. You can do proxy settings per account. So that's pretty good if you're using like Tor I2P, if you're browsing over darknet. As you can see here, the various internet protocols is you have all the things have an over Tor button, so you could just say over. So you can just, instead of having the futz with settings, you can just click this and start using them over Tor, and this uses Tor socks in the background. Multimedia, you have a DVD ripper, CD ripper, an audio editor, a DVD, what's it called, a DVD or video CD mastering utility that you can make an ISO to burn. You have a media player, you have video audio player, you have a video editor. We also, it's pretty cool, we actually ship with the built-in EQ. So because this new version is, we're now running Pulse Audio, with all the cool things Pulse Audio can do, is we now ship a native, what's it called, an equalizer, what's it called, a multi-band equalizer. You can actually screw with those if you want. There's sound converter, video converter, and what's it called, CD DVD burner. So after you do the mastering here, you can burn a DVD, or just a CD, just drag over the whatever MP3 files and burn a CD, which is pretty cool, because if you full audio workflow, if you're doing like a what's it called, like a video, like a small video, you need to cut audio real quick. You want to do so completely anonymously. You can kind of download everything to like a another partition, which is, or save everything to like a USB, another persistent USB stick. You can rip some audio tracks with the CD ripper, some video cutscenes from your favorite DVDs with the DVD ripper. You can edit everything in a DASI, PIDV, use DVD NG to convert everything into a DVD format. And once you do that, you can use XFburn to burn an audio CD or a video or DVD of whatever. So just the whole thing, you can do this anonymously. Speaking of which, among other things here, we have disks. GNOME disk utility. So here, as you noticed, you can do all the formatting. This is basically a DD replacement, so you can do things like do restore, make an IMG, restore, burn an IMG. You can do this all right here. It's all really easy to use, simple to follow, good UI. And the cool thing about this is we have a second, because NinjaOS is only one 2 GB partition, you have the rest of the disk. So with all the audio and video content you're creating and working with, you can always put that in the second partition if you want, or use multiple partitions, or up to 3 extra partitions. So that's cool. So it only requires one physical disk. So one, you don't have to go get more disks, which they cost money, or two, if you only have one USB port. And it's kind of make sure that you kind of like don't lose, make sure you kind of like don't lose it too, because it's always going to be on here. From the system here. USB control. The cool thing about this one is you can disable USB. So once you click that one, you see this in the corner. All new USB connections are disabled. On the back end, that's just using the Arch hardened kernel originally from GRSec that sets a kernel parameter. It disables new USB connections. This one, you've now let USB connections back onto the system. If you need incoming connections, there's basically some base firewall rules which are enabled with IP tables. You can use this to turn. You can use this one right here to turn on and off IP tables. And then up here with Bluetooth, you can start and stop the Bluetooth stack just from here. Bluetooth starts out as disabled because Bluetooth, it can be a little noisy. You can kind of broadcast that you're using Bluetooth, and somebody can kind of almost get your location from the radio signals. But if you need to use something in Bluetooth, and the problem is with the live OS is kind of they pair, and then the pairing goes away once you turn it off. So there's really limited utility with Bluetooth on a live OS, but if you ever just absolutely need to use Bluetooth, you can turn on and off Bluetooth from here. What else do we have here? So for here we have GNU GIMP. If everyone knows what GIMP is. Distro is kind of like this image viewer, which kind of comes with XFCE. If you double click on a image file, it's just kind of open, which is kind of cool. There's also GPick, which is like this advanced color picker, which is kind of if you ever need to just get your color scheme like absolutely right. Like if you're actually doing something with GIMP and you need to get your color scheme like absolutely right, you can kind of you can kind of use this to just kind of using math and all kinds of good stuff generate like a color scheme, and then you can use this color scheme to make prettier images, or kind of at least images where the colors are mathematically related, which should in theory kind of look better. So a lot of people use this one. It's pretty interesting tool. You can also save and restore these files. What other stuff in here? We have self-destruct. Self-destruct zero eyes is another kind of interesting NinjaOS specific tool. This one's not going to do here. There's no live data here. It'll ask you here. One thing to note is you don't press enter with this. What's it called? As soon as you hit the Y button, it's going to go. So there's only one key, but we're going to hear no. That closes. But if you do that, or if you just keep on mashing, hold down Control Alt, and then Z right here, Control Alt Z, you keep on mashing that one specifically 3 times in 0.8 seconds, it'll automatically run self-destruct. So the one thing about self-destruct you have to notice is it will It will wipe the headers of all the partitions, and then it will wipe then it will do a zero fill of the USB stick, and then when that is done, it will reformat itself FAT32, and then reboot the computer. So hopefully, like wherever computer you're booted into, you kind of escaped out into it, and it's set to normally to boot from whatever desktop OS. So once it self-destructs, it's going to reboot into whatever regular OS it has. So if you're like a library or somewhere like that in public, or a public computer you kind of commandeered, if you self-destruct it and kind of no one catches it until the end, it's just going to reboot itself, and it's just going to look like a regular FAT32 formatted USB stick, and that will look like somebody just kind of left plugged into the computer. Which is actually kind of cool. The one thing you kind of have to notice about that is because it's a zero fill, it kind of does take time. So a zero fill, it just literally reads from dev zero, which is why we call this zero eyes. Literally means it's a term that comes from Army radios and the ANCD. From when I was in the service, they had a zero eyes button in case your position was overrun, and you needed to get rid of like all the encryption and frequency loads and everything on your radio and your little ANCD, which is kind of like this fill device that kind of kept information. So there was like a zero eyes button, which you can quickly just go through that and just delete everything. And this one also works zero eyes because it literally just overwrites everything with zero. I've always debated back and forth, but the reason why I don't just call it zero eyes is because most people just kind of wouldn't get the reference. but it's more technically correct of kind of what it does. For docs, we have a PDF viewer, spreadsheet, and of course a word processor. Of course, here on the internet, Tor and I2, we ship Tor and I2P. They are not loaded by default. So what you're going to have to do is we have just like USB control and Bluetooth control and firewall control. We have Tor control and I2P control. So we can kind of start I2P here if we need I2P. If we need Tor, we can start Tor. And then from here, we can just open the, I2P has this pretty friendly web console. So once I2P is running, come on. There you go. You can see that what's it called? The I2P is, I2P is running. So there's a lot here. So if you go here, if you hit start, you should see there's a few things. We have onboard key. We also have an onboard keyboard. It also comes by default with no password set. Everything else is pretty much secured, except for the password. There's no password set. It's set. The root account is locked. Sudo will just run, and everything that needs root will just run until you set a password. You also set a password. We can just set with password is now required. Control L or open window L will now engage the screen locker. The screen locker is, among other things, just a blank screen. This program called Slock. So you type in password and it just unlocks itself. Cool, right? All right. So what other features here? If you need help with anything, user guides. So a few basic ones. A cheat sheet for GPG, in case you ever forgot how like Unix works, or you're kind of noobish. Somebody just hands you a stick. You can obviously run NinjaOS. There's a lot of great GUI tools. You don't really need the command line, but but if you need to learn some command line stuff and it's not your strong point, you don't know what to do once you've opened up a shell, which you can obviously right here is a terminal emulator, or you can hit Control-Alt-T. This just basic how to get around Unix, which will work. Of course, there is the NinjaOS user guides, among other things. We have offline version of Nmaps scripts. These links all work. You can kind of search through this and with what Nmap options you want to use. We have another cheat sheet with all the Vi commands in case you were stuck in Vi and you need help. We have help is on the way because we have this little guide of what to do if you're stuck in Vi, which is kind of cool. And of course, privacy how-tos. I wrote about how many? I wrote about 3,000 lines of 3,000 lines on privacy and like basic privacy stuff. So there's that. If you're also in Firefox, another cool part about Firefox and NinjaOS is I replaced all the default bookmarks. So there's a lot of things here. There's a lot of things like the bookmarks. The bookmarks are not supposed to be anything advanced. They're like kind of like some basic stuff. There's supposed to be some basic stuff. So we have a few name generators, various like user info generators. This person does not exist. You can generate a face for that one. Some Bitcoin related resources like under finance, some stuff you can do with Bitcoins. What's it called? Maps, navigations, a few interesting mapping tools. Especially up here we have OpenStreetMap, which is like an alternative to Google Maps, and it's free open source and the people are really cool. Of course, we'd like to get into more locale, as in like location specific. So far, we only have some New York City, which is like camera maps, blogs, and news. So if you, it's like really don't know where to start with all this hacker shit. There's 2,600 frac, seclist, which is people who do Nmap, Epic, EFF, Epic, and a few tech blogs here. These aren't 100%. We're not. These kind of change from time to time. N Commander Silent News is going to be in the next one. I think a few of these are kind of being taken off. Search and research. Here's a list of search engines you should use. Everything from like the famous ones like Nexus and Wolfram Alpha, to DuckDuckGo and StartPage. There's a few people lookups like Jabber Search, and a few things like Lola or whatever. So some OSINT stuff here. It's not supposed to be exhaustive. It's supposed to be like, hey, there's also Shodan. It's also not really supposed to be exhaustive. It's supposed to be like, hey, like kind of like, where do I start? Like, I don't, basic websites, if in case like, for people who just like really don't know anything. Politics. We'd like to do this like kind of like worldwide. We're trying to stay away from like blogs, but like actual political resources, which kind of pull like just freely available data on kind of politicians and what they do. So a lot of this is kind of very much pundicized. They kind of just the official websites for American legislature. I'd like to have this. This is in a folder for USA. It's the only reason it's in this folder. It's because this is all I have for now. I like to do this for like a lot of different countries, as many countries as like I really can. But so far, we only have this is mostly USA centric. So official legislature, you can go in here and check out legislature, American legislator, because these websites they publish all the details of what bills they're passing, how everyone voted, stuff like that. Which I think is kind of cool because these are kind of like private websites that kind of do this. I think that's kind of cool. It's kind of like a transparency thing, especially like democracy. It's supposed to be participatory system, so it kind of encourages like more civic participation, which is I kind of like steering people in that direction. You kind of look up what your elected officials are doing, and you kind of make judgments and vote based on kind of what they actually do, instead of what people kind of tell you they do. It's kind of so again, there's how-tos. I mean, the how-tos are basically, in case you have questions like this, there's a manual for PDV, Audacity, basic introduction to Linux. Here's the link to the Arch Linux wiki. Of course, this is Arch Linux, so how do I do this? And whatever. Online cheat sheets for Unix and Vi, Linux shortcuts. So it's a lot of real basic how do I Unix. In case again, it's just like one of those, if in case you really don't know much about Linux and you have to, you're just kind of given this and you're kind of running Linux here, so you can learn a little more of what you're doing. Internet relay chat is kind of, IRC is very complicated, so it just kind of explains kind of like how do you IRC, what's it about, what do you do. We shipped Darknet, so we shipped the project white papers on I2P and Tor. Basically, because when you ship the software, this is kind of how it works. You can kind of read up on this one. Lux in disk utilities. This one actually goes back to Tails because they did a really good write-up on this one. And disk encryption with ZuluCrypt. I'm going to get back to the rest of these in a second, but because TrueCrypt went the way of the Dodo, actually if in case anybody doesn't know the drama, what was it called? The person who maintained TrueCrypt was, in fact, a drug kingpin. He got caught, and he wound up going to prison for some time. He also wound up, flipping to the United States government. So, he did rat on his drug contacts, I guess, which is unfortunate for them. He managed to literally scuttle the TrueCrypt project before the U.S. government would do anything like put a backdoor, which is actually pretty cool. But in the wake, somebody wrote this program called ZuluCrypt, which, among other things, opens as a replacement for TrueCrypt. It opens TrueCrypt and FerroCrypt containers. Can create them and supports most of the features, like hidden partitions. It supports all the different crypto combinations that they use. It does things like Stego and supports files. It supports files. What's it called? It supports files, partitions. For keys, it runs the full gamut. Does everything. Keys and key files like TrueCrypt does, and it also adds you can actually encrypt something verify something with like a YubiKey. So it just a lot of options here, a lot of options, a lot of security options. So that's actually a pretty cool program. It'll also do your if you actually have anything legacy TrueCrypt, you're like, oh my god, whatever happened to that one, that will also do your legacy TrueCrypt partitions as well. So no reason to shit can the format just because the program went away. The program's like not really valid anymore. That's, we'll get back here. Firefox. As you'll notice, there's like a lot of links. Here, it's kind of tools of the trade. Tools of the trade. It's a lot of hacking websites. Nothing really advanced here because I really don't want to throw anybody in anything advanced. Because we assume if you're advanced, you already know where to look up tools. If you're just completely new, you have, oh my god, what is any of this? I don't even know where to start. This one's gonna be removed. THC the Hacker's Choice, who's hanging out here for a while. Those are the guys who do the secure delete tool and a few other tools more memorable about 20 years ago. A few of them are in GitHub. I mean, they're not really what they used to be. So there's a few security tools, privacytools.io, a few exploits database, rainbow tables, a few password lists I put on here, a few default password lists, right? Password lists are good, a lot of custom ones. There's a lot of great custom ones if you go search GitHub or whatever, and everyone has a cool custom ones. Here are things like, these are like the basic ones, like where you can download RockU and kind of all the real simple ones, which are good, like 101. So there's a few real basic ones here. This one's also going away. This one actually used to have default passwords.in. This one won't be the next version, but this one used to actually this website where they just listed all different kind of network equipment, what the default password is, because most of the time, a lot of times people just don't fucking change that. And there's like an online rainbow tables. There's a few cool things down here, and like the bottom one. Vigenera cipher decoder. If you ever do like hacker challenges, or if you're ever a con and they have like, and they have like challenges, a lot. The Vigenera ciphers are used a lot. This one can help you debug PHP. There's things like traceroute, and then lets you do traceroute and ping and all like the basic utilities from a website, which is kind of cool because it doesn't come from your machine; it comes from their thing. There's a few geolocators, SSL cert check, GPS visualizer, and then here's a site that will check your regex, which is really important. There's a lot of things actually use regex, unfortunately, and you have to kind of go debug that, because good luck. Proxy lists. If you wanted to troll web forums the days before Tor, like I just say my glory days, if you really want to call it that, you just get your hand to proxy. If they're blocking Tor, shit goes to hell. You can just grab lists of proxies and then just kind of put the proxy into the web browser, and you can use that to get around censorship the old-fashioned way before we had fancy things like Tor. Check yourself. There's a few things which you can actually check. Verify security. This is, I guess, a somewhat decent utility for here if you want to verify like how good I am, or if you really want to more for like your information. If you want to kind of just remember these or like look these up, and then kind of a lot of these will tell you how to secure Firefox on your own. Check if Tor is working. This is a good one. It will just again, it will go to check the Tor project. Just a basic check to make sure Tor is working, everything's going good. Leaks. Again, information is meant to be free. If a few of these are kind of reshuffled in the next version, so it's like I said, there's some things I might have missed in here, but there's a few basic links to get you started, a few entry points that kind of kind of spark your imagination of, am I doing this right? And of course, the paste bins, because sometimes you have to share like a paste with somebody, and just dumping large amounts of code into like IRCs, people hate you for that. So you use a paste bin. A lot of times the cool things like pastebin.com also have syntax highlighting for your code, so if you need to do things like debug your shell script, you can syntax highlighting, so whoever's kind of looking at them kind of easier, help, take an easier look at your stuff. So some of these are still in operation, some of them are not. These have been rearranged for the next version. It's not kind of, still kind of not. So yeah, that's Firefox. Like this also, I just want to show you how much kind of like work I kind of do with this. A lot of it's just kind of like the rote. Hex chat's the same way. I went and I deleted almost every net from that was stock and standard, and I went through. I got a whole big list of IRC networks, and I kind of went through and I looked for kind of like what I think are some of like the better ones. The larger networks are all in there. The IRC networks all support OpenSSL. I think they all have like decent primary. Like all the largest networks are in here. A lot of ones in SSL. We have for Pirate Party of an Onion. Occasionally I go through these and make sure I kind of go with like the best ones here. Again, Hackint. This is like this. It's some German hackers have this IRC for like kind of people doing projects and hacking shit. So yeah, unless otherwise specified, they all use IRCS, which unlike most generic lists don't use any encryption by default. So it's like so again a lot of default configurations. So there's a lot of stuff on here. I know I've been talking about this for almost about I've been talking about this for a long time, but there's a lot of stuff in there. I mean, it's like I said, the user guide goes into more context about how this is doing. And one more thing, I almost forgot. One last thing before I forget. One of the most important features. This feature has actually been in 2600 magazine, and actually wound up on Wikipedia. Running a NinjaOS system, all you need to do is if there's somebody right behind you, somebody grabs the USB stick, the computer automatically reboots itself. That's a security feature. It allows you, if you're kind of a little more of a pucker factor when it comes down to using this like somewhere in public and you need insurance. You can do something like put it on a wrist strap or somewhere else that if you're yanked away from your computer, it will pull the stick and reboot it. If you're set up with all your save data is encrypted and everything you're currently working on is just on the live OS, once it reboots, whoever grabbed you will have nothing. So. Without ado, that is the basic overview of NinjaOS. You will see more of NinjaOS on this show, guarantee it. And hi, Olga's more of NinjaOS, I guarantee it. But right now, pulling out my drawer here, lovely bag of tricks. I have one of these. I have one of these, retro controllers. This one's shaped in an old school NES controller, because when I do retro gaming, I do old school 1985 NES. So, this plugs into USB. Plug this in to USB. Let's move this back down here. And now, we're going to close this out. We're going to talk about this program FCEUX on Linux. This one's called FCEUX, which does which does original Nintendo Entertainment Systems emulation. So without ado, let's take a trip back in time to my childhood. This is when I was a kid. I'm now in my late 30s. When I was a kid, I did actually have an NES. I had very fond memories. Everyone in my neighborhood had an NES. All we did, this was the height of gaming. This is the latest and greatest console in like the late 80s, where we all kind of got this for Christmas one year or Hanukkah one year. So now, as you imagine, I have all the ROMs. So let's see. As listed on the channel, as promised, let's play an all-time classic that you should all be familiar with if you like retro gaming. Alright, so let's actually hold on one second. We can plug in a bunch of feedback. Let me get my headset on real quick. Alright, and now, without further ado, let's go back to what's it called, 1989. This is what we all played in the kid in the late 80s, early 90s. Remember back then, there was no cheat. There was cheat codes, but you had things like Nintendo Power and like magazines, or your friend figured it out, like the Konami code and. Ah, damn it! And I missed it too. There was a scatter shot that, because I died, there's the scatter shot I missed too, which is rank 1. So there's a scatter shot. These controllers are a little wonky. They don't exactly stay in the down button correctly. I don't know if it's I'm getting old, and there we go. Ow. See, I'm hitting the down button and it just doesn't work correctly. So this it gets a little wonky for like whatever reason. And like these stages, like you really have to like lie on the ground for most of it. So this one becomes like a genuine like kind of. But yeah, this is like, anyone wonder, this is like the height of gaming in like 1989. This is like, wait for that red dude to come out. Oh, come on, really? Ow! Ow! So again, if anyone kind of wonders if who the two guys, the two players are, that is literally supposed to be a bootleg representation of Schwarzenegger and Stallone. This is like the late '80s when those were two like the biggest action heroes. So that's supposed to be Schwarzenegger and Stallone, except for they didn't say it that, and it's low res, so I guess they couldn't sue him. Let's try this again. Let's see if this actually, the down key actually kind of doesn't works for me. But you know, I'm kind of like. Oh, come on. Alright, enough of this. This one's not working properly. Get to the chopper. Yeah. So here's another timeless favorite that everyone kind of remembers from this era. This is probably one of the later games on this console. This is probably one of the better games on this console. The more, best done. This game introduced like a whole lot of concept in Mario Brothers. I'd say this game almost kind of invented like kind of the modern Mario Brothers as we know it. Like mostly like the color palette and kind of the sprites and everything kind of is like more from this one than like previous games. And also introduced Raccoon Mario. Blip, blip. I don't know when the last time... Yes! Can you duck behind this scenery in 1-1? Okay, so... Side Pocket actually has an interesting question, which I suspect that he probably does know the answer to, but he probably just wants me to make some good conversation on... he probably just wants me to make some good conversation on cam. And you know what? Let's make some good conversation on cam. Let me go more, get back more. So, the answer is... I almost forgot how the rest of this level looks, because it's been forever since I always take this shortcut. So, the answer to this one is as long as you can see one of these white bricks, you can always duck behind one of these white things. So yes. Oopsies. Okay, no game audio. Alright, so let's try this one again. Instead of fucking around with this one. To the best of my knowledge, even though you can duck behind that white box, to the best of my knowledge, there's nothing you can do with this in 1-1. Another trick with this is when before you quit the level, right? Hold down B, right? And now for run. Now run as fast as you can. And if you always run as fast as you can, and then you hit that without interruptions, you will always get a star. And if you get 5 stars, you get 5 up. So that is by far the best trick. See, there we go, second star. Let's get this guy here, because we have one of those boomerang throwing motherfuckers. You always wonder what kind of inspires, like, half like the level design in this shit. Like, you have like turtle turkeys, which kind of gobble after you. You have like those guys throwing boomerangs. It's like, what the hell? And of course, this one. So that replaced beanstalks from the first one with kind of like those hidden notes. And right now, one thing to note, at the beginning of the cloud, right there, because the one thing you have to note, it's right in the middle of the big cloud. That's where you jump. That's where that secret always is, and they have quite a few of those in the. Yes, I was about to say there's a warp whistle here. So, like I said, duck behind the scenery. Anytime you see one of those white boxes, you can always duck behind the scenery. So this one, as everyone knows, this one. You go here. Yes. So there's this one time in Super Mario Bros. Castle, I stuffed a warp whistle. Okay. So well, what's it called? Big thing to do is now we have these things right here, which is these kind of like arcade game thing right here. Well, actually no. Before we do that, I'm not ever convinced that actually any three of those have anything different in them. I'm just not convinced. Through the years, they all have the same thing. I really think they all have the same thing. So next one, we have this kind of like arcade, like kind of slot machine thing here. And if anyone has like a recommendation about like how to like actual beat this one with like this like slot machine thing here, be sure to post it in chat and let me know, because I have no idea how these things are actually supposed to work. I never mastered this one. I know some people who did, and yeah, 2 out of 3 is not a winner. Dun, 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 dun. So right here, as Side Pocket has noted in chat, that's a flower. We're just gonna miss that because we need a little fluffy tail. There's an extra one here in case. So we can skip the boss here. We don't want to do a boss fight right here all the way to the end. Now there's a door, so we just press up, and bam! Second warp whistle. So, let me explain to you about these warp whistles real quick. From now on in, you've just done 3 levels in a castle. Now you can skip to any level in the game. You don't actually have to defeat this one, because you can go right to the ending if you want. If you really don't want to play out the entire thing. There we go. There's our other kind of note beanstalk. So you see right here, the beginning to that really tall cloud. Is where always a 1-up is right there. It's the exact same sprites as the first one in level 3. And you also get to skip a fair amount of level. I'm still... Ah! Damn it! Fucking controller. So like I said, you just rush real quick. That's easy. You got 5 lives every 3 levels you do this, so, you know. I can warp whistle at this point, but at this point I kind of like... Well, it's like I said, again, with the start thing, you just run as quickly as possible, ignore, jump over, whatever, and bam. Okay, so, side pocket, from what I can understand, you select the icon on the wheel before you want the direction of the wheel you're opening. If it's spinning right, star flower shroom. If you want shroom, press on the button on flower. Alright, cool. That's great. Run. Yes! Flower power! And a star. And they turned the king into a dog. Yeah, about right. You know. There's a wooden ship sailing in the sky. And who designs cannons like that? You know, it kind of auto-loading. What's it called? Cannonballs. Alright, here we go. If I don't fuck this one up too badly. Doo-doo. Ah! Mother effer! Don't make me come over there. Come on, no pressure, no sweat. This should be easy. So imagine that. It's just the Super Mario is the game where bullets like move slower than the character does. There we go. So how do you even do that? How do you how do you have? I've been in terrible mosh pits before. I mean, it's 50-50. You don't think people do that anymore? Like nobody heckles comedians anymore. Nobody moshes. Nobody has sex in the bathroom. There's a letter from the princess. Spooky, spooky ghosts! And this one really reminds me of my deployment to Iraq. Speaking of deployments, when I was... how I got all these games on NES is... Literally, I was deployed to Iraq with the U.S. Army. And it just so happens that it's they were passing around a USB stick with the emulator and all the games. And everybody made copies of the stick. And that's how we got a copy. Oh, come on. That was... And I'm missing a lot of secrets because I don't have the raccoon tail, and I can't even get in this one. Bonk. Ah! Mushroom. So it's just when you think you've seen everything in like Mario Brothers. The first time you played this, it's like, oh my god, the bricks jump out at you because like. It's always a good feeling when you knock one of those fireball thingies off. Because let me tell you, those things are a pain in the ass. There we go. Alright, so here we go. Run, 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 run. And star! I wasn't going to get into B-Disc. B-Disc is, was the replacement for Larch that I looked for NinjaOS. Its creator, Brent Sainer, popped in my IRC channel a couple of years ago. Goes, hey, check this out, and I checked this out, and I found both B-Disc and Brent to be a little disagreeable as far as working together. So, we have one of these. Whatever. Okay, so side pocket, from what I understand, you select the wheel the icon before that one in a direction you are opening. So if it's spinning right, it's Starflower. Okay. And that's a no. Ow! I know. I used to know people who used to ace those like way back in the day. And this one. There we go. 6 cards, 6 stars. Rock and roll. And I actually have to do this one this time. I actually have to go beat the mini boss because it's a spooky, spooky ghost with teeth, because ghosts have teeth. You call it Ghostbusters. Thud, thud, thud. Ow! Ah! Ah! Yeah, that was pretty worthless. Thud, 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 thud. Do 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 do. Yeah, I know. And your mother. This is fuck. Ah! Alright, something's acting up with this controller. Something is definitely acting up with this controller. Oh, whatever. Randomly, why not? Ow. Ah. Ow. Let's try a different game. Let's try a different game. Let's try a different game. Alright, so let's go for a few ones that kind of time forgot. There was a Snake, Rattle, and Roll. Now, there's one thing about this game, you know, we're going to know about this game here. Is this was actually like a pretty popular game. This is actually pretty famous in its day. This one even had its own TV show. So I guess this one's kind of like lost to history. You have to eat those things. So you eat those. You have to. you have to make, because you eat those things to make the snake bigger. Because the snake needs to be a certain size. The snake's not a certain size. Jesus Christ. The exit doesn't open. So this is how this game works. You have to kind of eat. You have to kind of eat those little pellet thingies to make your snake bigger. And if your snake has to be a certain size, otherwise you have to get the weight little bell at the end. Otherwise, you can't leave the level. And there's that thing in the water. I think I can't remember if it's a shark or an alligator. Oh, and he got me. If you keep on hearing it, it kind of hums a Jaws theme. Yeah. Jesus. No. Alright. Video games back in these days were effing hard. Video games in these days were hard. I gotta tell you, they're really hard. So what other famous games we have? The Snake Rattle and Roll. Marble Madness. I love how video games on like this era were all kind of. I have no idea, but why no game audio? Good question. Ah, can you hear it now? Worms! I hate worms. Fuck! Jumping worm. Ow! Okay. That's that game. Can you hear the audio now at least? Losing my marbles. What a time to be alive. A-S-S, okay. Oh, come on. You know what's great? Because if you had to, like, two of those, you could, like, marble race. Whatever. High rollers. Not a high roller. What other famous games that we have for the system? Anyone else have like a recommendation? Famous games, like most memorable. Oh, of course, Metroid. Never forget this one. The original. I mean, this is like, like before it was a franchise, it was 1986. Forever. Alright, there's Metroid. That's some of the ancient Metal Gear games. Yeah, I almost forgot. Mega Man. Actually, no, it's not going to load that one. Mega Man 3, I think, is pretty much one of the classics. Well, 3... Oh! Hardman! He's definitely in the finish scene. It's amazing, people actually beat video games back then. Urgh. to get out of this? Alright, I'm done. What do they got titles? Can we go through here? Oh. You know what? I think I'm more or less done. That wraps it up. Unless anybody has anything else they specifically want to say. I'm getting my ass kicked by 1987 video games here. So, about it. It's about an hour, 40 minutes. You saw some NinjaOS. You saw me fail some old school video games. Till the next time, stay safe. And enjoy yourself. J Jack, signing off.